Well, let me put it like this. Before Plastic Man was even Plastic Man, he was like this thief, right? This con man, right? Then he got shot and left in dead submerged toxic sludge. He ended up gaining fantastical powers, allowing him to stretch, morph, otherwise change his entire physical structure at will. Kind of like a shapeshifter. Despite his rocky past, he decided to do a complete 180 and use his new abilities to do some good for once. He's basically have shape-shifting, elasticity, versatility, as his name says. His main power comes from his shift his shape into wherever he feels like. It's kind of like limited to his imagination, which he has a lot of stuff like that. But let's get right into it. But before we get even farther, thank you all that have donated to the channel. Appreciate it a lot. It's obvious he can blend in into a crowd and hide in plain sight. Literally has full-blown shape-shifting capabilities, can just change his face at will. That awkward moment when he's able to hide himself from Batman and shocked him and was shocked that it was actually him because he didn't know it was him the whole time. What if I told you Plastic Man was not originally a DC character? Oh, shocker. And guess what? He was created long before Mr. Fantastic. You guessed it. Even though Mr. Fantastic, one could say, is kind of in the spotlight at the moment more. You know what I mean? But that depends on how you look at it, though. Some might say Plastic Man is more popular. I mean, this guy got his own show, for Pete's sake. Oh, you didn't know that? A show that nobody knows about. He actually legit got his own show. Don't ask. He used to be in a different comic series before DC, known as Police Comics. Another occasion of him using his stretchy abilities to like surround a folk in like a leg ring. Can get so flat to fit through small cracks. Trampoline. There was a fun occasion. He literally turned it into a whale. That's funny. To do a vice grip. Tried to go inside. Slips right in. Punches. Usually the weakness to rubber is like sharp objects. That still doesn't work against Plastic Man. It's like a boomerang punch to hit a whole bunch of people with one attack. Make himself into a kite. He can be used as a fire hydrant. Just straight liquid. Imagine being able to play an entire team of people by yourself by just stretching this wide. Or freaking turn into a tent. I mean, Plastic Man is that guy that literally turns into a painting and you don't know he's the painting itself. Or the fact he's the literal table that the people are eating on. Like, legitly, the literal table. Then he sneezed. Then he got shot. Then the bullets bounced back off of him. So check this out. He used a bowling ball, right? Like, turned his body into a construct for the bowling ball, like some bow and arrow type stuff. Like, check this out. Like, launches backwards like that. Shoots it at him like, yeah, like a straight up bow and arrow, like a launcher. He made a straight on prison out of his body. Turn it into cars. They have no idea. He literally made a fan out of his rear. Look at all the stuff he can just turn into, like just straight on full-blown gag. Seriously, it feels like a Looney Tune. Like he even sprouts out multiple heads. Muscle form yet again, and he's flat. He's literally a boat. He can turn into a stove, a toilet, playground, a freaking vacuum. He's a literal train. And by the way, he can shrink to the point where he can shrink himself down to the capsule in Batman's belt. That one time he perfectly mimics Flash, even his freaking voice. After seeing a jail guard once, he was able to copy his face. This goofball literally transformed into a dress that was worn by Barda. A lot of dudes' dreams, huh? And of course, he can make himself a parachute. He wrapped himself around Barbara Gordon. Turns into like a paraglider to land safely. Stuff like that. That one time he became a lamp so he can help Wonder Woman with some training sessions. Helps for training sneak attacks. He's so versatile. He can like snake through a guy's body just to get a parasite out. Can get really freaking small. Like he literally went in there to get a mind controlling parasite out. Epic. He's used for a lot of things. Being able to extract a microscopic machine from inside of Wonder Woman. You know, he can just do a lot of freaking things. Thinner and to the left a bit further to extract stuff. That one time he went inside somebody's body, then just rips out by expanding. And yes, he's great at picking locks. Look at flicks you off. He's not just stretchy, but he can even change color if he tries hard enough. He has a decent amount of super strength. I mean, why wouldn't he? He could just make his limbs super big and just throw his fist, and wouldn't that be a lot more mass or power behind it? You know what I mean? I mean, just look at the stuff he can turn into. This big old construct looking thing catches Batman in the process. Think about it. He's strong enough to subdue characters like Black Manta underwater and other super villains. Like, look how he just changes into like a creature. He says, "Don't call me Rubber Man." Just look at the different liquidy forms he can take. It's like his durability is probably his best asset. He's strong enough to where he can quote unquote scuffle with characters like Captain Marvel, aka Shazam at the time. You know, the different names in DC continuity. You know, turns into like this little balloon, spins like a vortex, wraps around him, stuff like that. A nuisance. You remember when Martian Manhunter was going nuts? He kind of got in a prolonged fight with Furious. Martian Manhunter, when he was going nuts, beating down the whole Justice League. Not necessarily saying he's on Martian Manhunter's level, especially like this, but you get the idea. Not to mention he was able to push this same Furious through multiple skyscrapers. This Martian Manhunter was powered up. A different alternate psyche of Martian Manhunter. You know what I'm saying? Even to the point where he uppercuts him. Yes, he looks like a robot mech. He'd be just changing shapes and all kinds of stuff. Or he even dragged him back after trying to crawl away. So Plastic Man is pretty freaking strong. No, legitly.
Apparently, I know this might sound crazy, but Furnace, the being known as Martian Manhunter that was taking on the freaking League, Plastic Man was able to fight him like for a very extended amount of time, getting large in the process because of his shape-shifting ability. Like, it's so bad, it's literally for panel. Like, you can see him holding him back here. Yeah, I got it in clear quality here for you readers. I know I was showing the bootleg version earlier. Plastic Man was one of the very few people that was immune to his telepathic abilities because Martian Manhunter in this state would just mind to destroy people. Don't get it twisted. He did have help, though, but goodness gracious alive. Seriously, I don't know why Plastic Man was so powerful in this comic issue, but this comic kind of makes him seem like he's in the Superman tiers, but that's none of my business. I showed this earlier already, but here it is in HD versus Furnace. All these different shapes, shark, hammer, all that stuff, shape-shifting fight. This Savage Manhunter. Ain't that freaking crazy? Aqua moment when he's able to hold up a glass dome that has the weight of the ocean pressing down on it while it's shattered. Now, when it comes to speed, he can dodge attacks from this armored machine warrior, blitzes and attacks and quickly kills Sportsmaster, just no match. How the heck did this happen? But he tagged Flash and knocked him out. Yikes. Put craps up his nostrils, wrapped him up. Durability-wise, you might as well not even try to shoot him. They just literally bounce off. All these spikes coming out from Earth hitting him still doesn't completely penetrate him. Shot through the head when he was disguised by Joker, didn't do that much. Being deep under the water doesn't matter. He can survive those pressures. He smothers folks in his own flame to snuff him out, like wrap him up like, yeah, you can't breathe with your flame. Guy was even melted by heat wave. Then he snuck back into the prison to get revenge after he reformed. Man, look at this. You might as well call him a liquid. Plastic Man regenerated from being mere molecules. That's how his regeneration is. They even stated here, Plastic Man survived for 3,000 years as little more than crumbs scattered across the Atlantic. And during this same fight with Martian Manhunter when he was going insane, get out of my mind, get out of my mind. This powerful magical being known as Cersei transforms him into different stuff. He can kind of just simply change back because that's kind of what he does anyway. Like the ultimate counter. He's like, hey, you change me into an animal, I can do that anyway, so let me just change back to normal. You know what I mean? Heavily implications that he just simply just cannot die. It says you would think that the day a guy learned he's unkillable would be a good day. Turned to stone, shattered, and still alive. The reason why I was showing some injustice feats is simply for the fact that he just doesn't have that many showings, so I showed some injustice feats as well. Hey, he even learns to be a great father. Usually characters are resistant to stuff. Nobody's really rarely ever immune to something. Even Spectre can get his mind penetrated. Of course, Martian Manhunter penetrated with the help of Arthur, but that's just further the fact that Furnace, a more powerful version of Martian Manhunter, couldn't get into Plastic Man's mind. That's why Plastic Man was a good counter for it, which should give more props to Plastic Man. Furnace, Martian Manhunter telepathically destroyed the entire League. Yes, it was bad. Superman included, until Green Lantern came to help, of course. So what is Plastic Man? Is he a solid, rubber, or liquid? Plastic Man's mind is no longer organic. He's untouchable telepathically. I would say, as far as his body, he's neither entirely liquid or solid. I feel like he's a little bit more flexible than somebody would say a rubber person, wouldn't you say? Because he literally gets split apart, so he has some form of regeneration as well, you know what I mean? So I'd personally say he's a superior version of Miss Marvel or Mr. Fantastic when it comes to elasticity, liquid form, durability, all that stuff. I feel like they're inferior when it comes to that, and he's superior. Now with Mr. Fantastic, he might equal the balance of his intelligence. Mr. Fantastic can probably counter him with his tech and stuff, but that's another discussion, you know what I mean? Batman even said it himself. I need Plastic Man to take down the Manhunter when he was crazy. He's not under mental control, Luke. He can't be. That's why he's my secret weapon. It must be a form of hypnosis, voluntary. He won't let go. More proof of his mind being like untouchable, even by powerful telepaths that can enter Spectre's mind in his normal state, but that's not my business. He tries to say Plastic Man's out of his league, but he tries to go in his head. He says, get out of my mind, pushes him through some buildings in the process. Punches here, and Batman even stated, I was right. Plastic Man's mind is no longer organic. It's untouchable by telepathy. They even stated invisibility, phase shifting, the eyes all still the Martian advantage, but telepathy is useless and the shapeshifting, which is why this is his best feat until this day. Hey, guess what? Plastic Man got some Rebirth era stuff that I was able to scoop up, Plastic Man in the Rebirth era was a small-time gangster who was in the middle of a heist with his buddies. He was unlocking a safe. There was this guard that actually caught wind of what they were doing during the crime, and they tried to stop him. One of Plastic Man's friends during the time when he wasn't Plastic Man yet shot the guard. The guard shot back, but missed and hit the container of chemical gas that spread towards Eel, the guy that's his real name. It ended up burning this guy's skin. He got injured severely because of this. They tried to escape in a car. His friends betrayed him and chucked him out of the car, leaving him to die. Don't be a gangster, everybody. However, the gas didn't kill him and instead gave him the powers of elasticity, turning him into Plastic Man. What great luck do these characters have with these freak accidents and not dying? But let's get it. Before I get real deep into Rebirth though, but
It seemed like his post-crisis self was at least in the medium heavyweight tiers because, I mean, being able to fight that version of Martian Manhunter that consecutively with the uppercuts and stuff without just getting one shot at it just ridiculous considering what that same Martian Manhunter did to other Superman tier beings like Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, etc. So doesn't have the most showings to really concrete him consistently, but from those showings right there, it's not really much contradicting it. Should be at least in the medium heavyweight tiers or at least in those Starfire tiers in DC Comics. Do you think that's fair? What do you think what tier she relies in? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that. He gives himself and Mr. Terrific gas masks, like literal gas masks made out of his own, one could say, skin. Like what? He can turn into a giant squid, to a slingshot and launch the Metamorpho. He puts Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho inside his mouth to shield him from the multiversal energies. Give himself a new suit. Gotta love shapeshifting. He turned into My Little Pony. You know what? I'm done. This is goofiness. Turns his face into a literal butt. Talking about gags. Okay, this is some fourth wall breaking. He kind of turned into the Suicide Squad Harley Quinn to classic. Isn't that strange? They even stay here. This stuff is huge at Comic-Con. And he even turns into New 52 Harley Quinn. Literally turns into a dragon. Literally turns into Optimus Prime and Iron freaking Man. That's what it looks like here. Not really. I can turn into a cat. Can literally turn into a cannon. That's gotta be scary. And he can make himself as ripped as heck, like even get a 12-pack. He turns into Wonder Woman. You can always tell when he turns into people because like he always has like these certain looking glasses around him. Yep, still doing goofy stuff like turning into a hot air balloon. Turns into a ball so he can have fun and boing, bounce around the city. He can extend very far, like stretching just ridiculously far. Just to get in a comparison on how far he stretched, look at the size of the rib cage compared to him. And he extended this far. Extends so far in the sky that the guy he's carrying, he starts getting tears. Like, look how high they got. Stop interrogating him, plastic. That time he turned into a car. He can literally fly because he can turn into a rocket. Legitly. Like, guys, let this sink in for a second. Why are you outrunning these older people, man? That ain't fair. Turns into a hand glider. Turns his feet into stilts. Turns into a rover. Now, in the Rebirth era, he doesn't have as many flashy battle feats to put him up there with the medium heavyweights in Rebirth, but still pretty strong, though. Strength feats are still pretty cool, I would say, right? Nothing out of the ordinary, though. You know what I mean? He just completely mows down and destroys a bunch of beings from the dark multiverse, literally making different creatures in the same hand. Also, the other hand having different weapons in the different hand. You know, it's like kind of like a Green Lantern construct. Something you got to give him credit for is doing this to Darkseid in the dark multiverse, restraining him temporarily. That one time he turned into a tank and just be crushing cars, so he can actually replicate the mass of it. You destroyed my car. I mean, the guy be punching so hard, he just be sending people flying. Giving Man-Bat them works. Yeah, I showed this earlier, turning in Iron Man and Optimus Prime. I'm just going back to it because it was a battle feat with Man-Bat, you know. Armored cops, don't even try to fight him, too strong. Broke their helmets in the process. Knocked them out with a hammered fist. Night-Night cops. KOs another cop. I mean, y'all gonna learn today. He be having fun taking out people, like turning into a bowling ball. Like, he even went as far as giving himself holes. And of course, he restrained a rock monster. He can crush a rock monster. In the Rebirth era, he's bulletproof as well. Boing. He's immortal. He states here, and nothing is real to me anymore. Gravity, mortality, physics. I'm immune to all of them, and I don't get it. He survives like this lethal taser. Evidently, tasers can hurt him really bad. Actually got his head splattered by this giant rock monster. Regenerates back to normal, though. His head is back, but he says that hurt. Yeah, his weakness do imply to be tasers, though. Shock batons hurt him really bad, too. This dude, Plastic Man, be changing into women, like giving him curves and everything. Really, Plastic Man? And one could say this is like a muscle form. Like, seriously. You see how massive he is compared to normal folk size people? Giant fist, stiff arm. Look at this shark face, shark teeth, looking goofy looking crap. Literally made his hands scissors and then make him into literal rock. And so in the post-crisis era, you can kind of get an idea on what his limits are, but what are his limits in Rebirth? Well, I'm gonna say it's kind of hard to judge, but if I had to guess, it kind of depends on how big he can get. Like, because he can stretch really far, he can get the same mass and stuff he turns into. He doesn't just get the same size, but he's like mad hollow. He actually gets as thick and as heavy as the things he turns into. Like this occasion of being able to turn into an actual heavy tank, which leads me to believe that he can duplicate the mass of something that's at least 60 tons of force or higher, hundreds of tons of force. I'm about 100% sure he can produce buildings shattering levels of force by turning into the size of a building. This is implied with how much he can stretch, like in this particular occasion, right? Here, you can get an idea of how much he can stretch. So that's how I think it is. He can at least punch a building in half by producing punches with his fist. That's what I would say, right? He can shapeshift and use different weapons at the same time. Like in this particular occasion, he's literally turning into a dinosaur, sharks, hammers, saws, all at the same time while shapeshifting, while increasing the size at the same time, while being able to multitask. Like, it's just a deadly combination. This guy, Patrick O'Brien. More evidence that he should be able to level a building, at least in Rebirth era, by just increasing his mass. Being able to shatter this big old rock monster, evidence of it like that. Restrain him and even shatter him. More evidence is the fact that he can stretch so much that he can reach the clouds. Just let you know how much mass he can create. Imagine adding this type of mass into like a single fist to where you can just stretch your fist the size of like multiple skyscraper sized fists. You know what I mean? With crazy mass. You know what I mean? Heck, it's also implied that he can break the fourth wall, but that's none of my business. But what do you guys think? Post your comments down below. Let me know what you all think. Did you know he was this OP, especially in the post-crisis era? How do you like him in Rebirth? Do you think there's going to get some more showings of him in Rebirth? Just let me know. And yeah, this is how it actually happened, how that stuff fell on him, which changed his life forever. He said, help me. But guys, make sure you check out those playlists so you can binge watch more stuff like this. I do a lot of videos like this. More content coming soon in the future. I'll see you guys later.